If you receive Social Security, there's a number coming this fall that could change your monthly check for all of 2027. And right now, the experts don't fully agree on what it's going to be. Some say it could be one of the more meaningful increases retirees have seen in the last few years. In this video, we're going to break down exactly what's being predicted, how this number actually gets calculated, and what it could mean for your check. Stick around, because we're also going to cover something most people don't realize eats into their raise every single year. Every year, the Social Security Administration adjusts benefit payments to help them keep pace with rising prices. This adjustment is called the Cost of Living Adjustment, or COLA for short. This isn't a new idea. Automatic annual COLAs have been in place since 1975. Before that, any increase to Social Security benefits required an actual act of Congress. The COLA system was designed so that retirees, disabled workers, and other beneficiaries wouldn't have to wait on lawmakers every time the cost of groceries, housing, or healthcare went up. The adjustment is based on inflation data, specifically a measure called the Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners and clerical workers, or CPI-W. And it directly affects the monthly amount that tens of millions of people across the country receive. To understand where 2027 might land, it helps to look at where recent years have landed. In 2023, beneficiaries received an 8.7% COLA, the largest increase in more than 4 decades, driven by the inflation surge coming out of the pandemic. That number came down to 3.2% in 2024, then eased further to 2.5% in 2025. For 2026, the COLA was set at 2.8%, a slight uptick from the year before. So the pattern over the last few years has been a general cooling off from that historic 2023 spike, though 2026 broke a streak of declines. Now the question on everyone's mind is, where does 2027 land? Here's where it gets interesting. Several independent organizations that track this every single month have released their own projections for 2027, and the numbers are close, but not identical. The Senior Citizens League, a nonpartisan group that has tracked COLA projections for years, is currently estimating a 2027 increase of around 3.8%. Independent analyst Mary Johnson, who has followed Social Security COLA trends for a long time, has estimated closer to 3.7% after revising her forecast down from an earlier estimate following cooler inflation data. AARP's policy experts have put out a slightly more conservative projection, closer to 3.6%. So depending on which source you look at, the current estimate sits somewhere in the mid-3% range. It's worth repeating, none of these are official numbers. They're informed projections based on the inflation data available so far. These projections aren't set in stone, and that's actually completely normal. As new inflation data comes out each month, forecasters update their models. For example, after a cooler-than-expected inflation reading in June, at least one forecaster lowered their estimate. In this case, from a projection of about 4.7% down to about 3.7% in a single month. That's a good reminder that these are moving projections, not locked-in figures, and they will likely keep shifting over the next few months as more data comes in. So how does the Social Security Administration actually land on a final number? It's not a guess, and it's not a political decision. It's a formula. The SSA compares the average CPI-W for the third quarter of the year. That's July, August, and September, to the average CPI-W from the same 3-month period the year before. Whatever the percentage difference is, rounded to the nearest 0.1%, becomes the official COLA. Because the calculation depends on July, August, and September data specifically, the final number for 2027 won't be confirmed until October 2026, once all 3 months of data are in. Until then, every number you hear, including the ones in this video, is a projection, not a confirmed figure. To put these percentages into perspective, some organizations have estimated that if a COLA in the high 3% range were applied to the current average benefit, it could translate to a monthly increase somewhere in the general range of $70 for the average recipient. This is only a broad, illustrative estimate based on current average benefit figures, not a personal calculation, and not a promise of what any individual will actually receive, since actual benefit amounts vary widely from person to person. For some additional context, the average annual COLA over the past decade has been a little over 3%. So a mid-3% adjustment for 2027 would be roughly in line with that longer-term average, even though it would still be noticeably smaller than the historic 8.7% jump from 2023. Here's something that doesn't get talked about enough when people discuss their COLA increase. For many retirees, part of that raise can be offset by rising Medicare costs. Most people enrolled in Medicare Part B have their premium deducted directly from their Social Security check. When the Part B premium goes up, it can reduce how much of the COLA increase a person actually notices in their deposit. To help with this, there's a rule called the hold harmless provision. In simple terms, this rule prevents a Medicare Part B premium increase from ever making a person's net Social Security check smaller than it was the year before. If the COLA is large enough to cover the premium increase, beneficiaries pay the full new premium. But if the COLA is too small to cover it, the premium increase is capped so the check itself doesn't shrink. It's worth noting that this protection doesn't apply to everyone. It generally excludes people who are new to Medicare that year, those who don't have their premium deducted directly from Social Security, and higher income beneficiaries who pay an income-related surcharge. For 2026, the standard Part B premium is $202.90 per month. And this is the kind of number that will factor into how much of any 2027 COLA actually shows up as extra spending money. The COLA doesn't exist in isolation, either. It works alongside a few other Social Security rules that also update every year. For instance, 2026 marked a milestone. Full retirement age officially reached 67 for anyone born in 1960 or later, completing a phase-in that had been running for decades. Full retirement age matters because it affects how much someone receives depending on when they start claiming benefits. There's also what's called the earnings test, which applies to people who claim benefits before reaching full retirement age but continue working. In 2026, someone under full retirement age for the whole year can earn up to $24,480 before $1 is withheld from benefits for every $2 earned above that limit. For someone reaching full retirement age during 2026, that limit is higher at $65,160, with $1 withheld for every $3 earned above it, and only counting earnings before the month they reach full retirement age. Once someone reaches full retirement age, this limit disappears entirely, and there's no cap on how much they can earn while receiving full benefits. On the other end, there's a separate rule for people who wait. For every month someone delays claiming benefits past full retirement age, up until age 70, their eventual benefit grows by about 0.2% per month, which adds up to roughly 8% for every full year of delay. To put actual numbers on it, the Social Security Administration's 2026 figures show that someone claiming at full retirement age could receive up to $4,152 a month at the maximum level, compared to $2,969 if they claimed at 62, or $5,181 if they waited until 70. These are simply the program's built-in rules for how timing affects the benefit formula, not a suggestion about when anyone should personally claim. Zooming out for a moment, the 2026 COLA of 2.8% was actually a bit of a historic marker in its own right. According to COLA history going back to 1975, when automatic annual adjustments began, this was the first time in 30 years that COLAs stayed at or above 2.5% for 5 years in a row, a streak that hadn't happened since the mid-1990s. On the flip side, there have also been 3 years since 1975, 2010, 2011, and 2016, when the COLA came out to exactly zero, because consumer prices didn't rise enough to trigger an increase. Even in those years, though, benefits never actually decreased. By law, the COLA can never be negative, even if the underlying inflation measure were to fall. To recap the timeline, the Social Security Administration finalizes the COLA in October, once the complete July, August, and September inflation data is available. The announcement typically comes out in mid-October. Once that official number is confirmed, the adjustment takes effect with the December benefit, which is the payment that goes out in January 2027. So we've still got a few months of data and a few more rounds of projections before we get a real answer. This video features an AI-generated avatar and is for informational and educational purposes only. It does not constitute financial advice. All figures mentioned are based on publicly available estimates and projections as of the time of filming and are subject to change once official data is released. Please consult a licensed financial professional before making any retirement or financial decisions. The official 2027 COLA number will be announced in October, and when it is, we'll be right here to break it down for you. If you found this video helpful, consider subscribing so you don't miss that update when it drops. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.